art historian, theorist, and curator, and you've chosen some examples which you think are really relevant and interesting. So you've done a lot of sorting and archiving for us. So we're really looking forward to see what you found out. So thank you very much for coming, and over to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I have been delighted to receive this invite. So I'm here as a researcher more, but I'm also a curator. And my presentation consists of different parts. So in the first part, I have some theoretical background and comments upon the research I have been doing the past decade in Athens. So since I came back to Athens, because I lived abroad for many years, which is about public space, public art, urban art. My presentation is called Art in Public Space, and I'm focusing on the example of Athens. So this presentation has the aim to showcase exemplary art in public space across different typology, locative media, performative media art in urban space, public art and activism, public art and land art. So I have written down some comments which I would like also to share with you, and also some results of my research. And we can get more in depth about the presentation then at the second part by showing you some examples of cases I would like to show. And also part of that is also my work as a curator with projects in public space. So I will start by not making a very big statements, but we all know that in recent years, the debate on artistic expression and art is not limited to museum and gallery exhibition, but also extends to beyond the art galleries and outside the walls of the museums. So along with these new artistic practices, we develop a kind of audience with different quality characteristics than the ones we have known to date, which differs from the audience in galleries, museums, and in all conventional ways of artistic expression, presentation. So I will refer to some specific theoretical elements concerning the historical context, which I think would be very useful to wrap up these 2 days and also lead to a discussion then later on that creates the condition for this change of the audience. I will also point out the characteristic of this change based in my ethnographical observation of artistic works, projects that took place in Athens during the last decade. My research material is briefly drawn from artistic works in the public space or forms of art made through new technologies and locative media, as well as new forms of artistic and institutional organizations in Greece. My purpose is to look at the new correlations that arise between art and the audience and how audiences are involved or respond to these forms of art. So in the next slide, I show some there must be a mistake here, but anyway, we'll get to the questions. Some of the questions I address. So just because we cannot see the questions now, we'll read them aloud. What is public art, and when an art becomes public? Does art always address public questions? How is public space understood or misunderstood and used as a terrain for artistic expression? And how is art in the public space located? Which are the limits of art as public art, and how does art encourage dialogue on the public sphere? Where do the aims of art as an abstract notion and as expressed by the artistic themselves made up? And where does the role of participants in collaborative or participatory arts intervene? So later on I will show you some projects, and this is one of the first projects here, which I will show you. This is a project of Barbara Papadopoulou, which is called Buried Words. But before getting there, I would like you to give some historical background, as I said, and focus then with some comments to Documenta, which is one of the biggest organizations from outside that worked in Athens from 2016, if I'm right, up to the realization of the project. So historically speaking, all these changes have been a result of many other smaller ones. The beginning of all these changes are to be found in the history of art. One may briefly mention the Futurists and the Dadaists, the Situation and the Fluxus group, as well as the pioneers of performance art, conceptual art, and land art. that work in a common direction with the aim to activate the public and make art participatory and interactive in a direct or subtle way through new media or by demanding the direction of the public. From art as object, there was a slowly but steady transformation of art into experience. But how exactly did this happen, and which are its historical avatars in the post-industrial era? The works of John Cage, Guy Debord, and the Situationists, as well as the work of the Japanese group Gutai, were the first with the above-mentioned characteristic. Using psychogeography and practices such as the derive, the Situationists proposed to drift in the city based solely upon their instinct and their wish to wander without a specific plan. The idea was to emphasize the symbols of art and everything around them. In this way, art becomes more anthropocentric and linked with society. By definition, participatory art asks for the presence and participation of the audience. In this context, the artist is not the regulator of pre-existing relationships, roles, and stories, but a catalyst of new situations and ideas. So the efficiency of this type of art is often questionable, and this is where our questioning takes place. Art per se is a mirror of an era, reflecting many elements connected with history, culture, economy, etc. It is a way to address questions and also extract observation, suggestions. So in postmodernism, the discussion about spatiality, public space, and synergies with new media and technologies plays a very crucial role. As we live and interact in a city which has been heavily exploited today by marketing and the tourist industry, surely we're all confronted by a number of questions about how art is managed and consumed, how people interact, and how new opportunities are to be developed in our complex societies so that art becomes more updating and diachronic and not just a commodified object, a mere asset in a world with no interaction where quantification, in art as well, reigns supreme. In this context, one may wonder if there is any public art around, as long as this term refers to genuine art that takes place in the public space and art that engages with contemporary preoccupations and social issues. Over the last decades, artists or art producers through art organization or big corporation and festivals have reshaped art production in new forms, even newer in Athens, where art was produced outside the corporate domain for many years, and funding, including by the state, was scarce. At the same time, over this last decade, collaborative art form from all over the art spectrum, from visual to sound arts, started to take shape. These artists conduct projects that demand to be synchronous. They're all performed at an immediate time, and even in some cases in different specialities, thus challenging the notion of space through the technological capacities of the new media. When the spectator interacts with the work, a direct dialogue is developed. In this case, the work cannot even exist without the participation of the audience. In these artistic works, the spectator is in a way a part of the artwork as an end product, yet first and foremost a condition of its existence. I would like to share with you, as I said at the end, during our discussion, some of the results of my research that I made as a curator, from the curatorial point of view, some comments about the audience in public space, and about how new media have reshaped the audience and locative media, so projects that take place. So I will not carry on speaking very long. I will move to the case studies as a historical, in a way, approach. But briefly before that, I would like to speak about Documenta and also giving an overview of what is happening in the South in comparison with the North. So public space, with all its particular characteristics that vary from country to country, seems to be an object of appropriation in a new complex system of interaction produced by the private sector or through autonomous actions of artists in the public space. It is also of interest, as mentioned above, that the public space in Greece in particular, or in cities in the south, is much less regulated than in cities in Northern Europe or Western European cities. Not to mention that in our days, even in cities such as London or Berlin, Art and activism or political art is a widely spread way of expression and opposition against the status quo. We can easily think of Bansky in this case, of all political actions by the guerrilla girls and other guerrilla art projects. In Greece, art has been a way to connect industry and economy very lately, or to persuade artists that have external funding by Western countries to come and live and work in the country without necessarily investing there. One speaks of a new colonialism in the arts, where artists come and go, or they produce works without relating their experience with their host country or connecting it with their host culture. After Documenta 14, there has been a strict critique about the way the project was conducted, but we did witness many of the organizers or the artists staying in Greece or having newcomers after the event, and some of them even bought property here. I personally met a number of German gallery owners and art people from Germany that after Documenta bought flats in downtown Athens, as the market back then was still affordable. That changed twice in between. I think that one possible critique of Documenta 14, learning from Athens, a project that was developed along the Documenta in Kassel, Germany, can be summarized in the following question. How fruitful and productive was really the dialogue conducted during the project? It seemed that Documenta 14 attempted, without any in-depth research, to deal with very complex questions in its program, and very ambitious, I would like to add, and in the artistic endeavors of public problems run by Paul Preciado, such as the civil war in Greece after World War II or transgenderness, which are both interesting but quite taboo issues in Greece, and for different reasons need a thorough research and an acute sensitiveness before any attempt to be publicly discussed through art. But I think we still need time to evaluate what happened with Documenta, and this also happens at any kind of a change, collaboration in direction. A critique, it's not very immediate and obvious, so it always takes more time. And at this point, I would like to, because we have also limited time, I'm also checking if there are any questions. So I would like to speak about some projects. The first one I would like to say, which is not very good to say, but it's one of my favorite. It's called Buried Words. It is an art project by Barbara Papadopoulou. She's a Greek artist and activist. It's an art project between Lander, performance, and action kunst. It has been born out of the idea that all those words that we carry in our heads while we walk on the streets every day in the cities cannot just disappear. All those words of our hidden desires, thoughts, anxieties that fill our head all the time as we cross the urban landscape somehow come out of our heads, float in the air, and fall eventually into the earth. The earth keeps all these words of our secret private world, and one day these words may appear again in front of our eyes, this time out of the ground in the earth language, which is grass. As a catalyst, as Barbara Papadopoulou prefers to say in an interview I took with her, as a fairy with a magic stick, she acts, the artist comes and makes all those words reveal. So Buried Words is an intervention. Yes?
Eva, just to check, we're worried that you might want to change the slide, but maybe it's the same slide. I just want to check.
No, I would like to change the slide, but it's actually, I'm working together with Harris on that.
Okay,
so
you're okay. Good.
Please,
all right.
you please,
Yes, good, good.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Harris. Okay, so, and thank you, Trevor. So Buried Words is an intervention in the public urban space in different cities around Europe that has taken place between 2010 and 2012 in a guerrilla form, with the exception of Athens in 2012 exactly, where there has been an invitation by the State Museum of Contemporary Art, EMSC. So using earth pieces in the urban space, Varvara again sowed works in the earth with simple grass seeds. The choice of the words focuses on short, dynamic words with as much poetical load and force as possible. The words that are chosen for each action are always taken from the local language, German, so in Germany, Greek, French, Flemish. While in action, the artist is always exposed to the public of the city and is in constant interaction with people that pass by. First comes the sowing of the word by digging a vein in the earth, putting the grass seeds in form of letters, 25 to 30 centimeters high, and then covering them with soil. Then comes a slight watering of the word, throwing water in a way that follows the form of the letters. The first signs of the words are those from the first watering. The words must be watered every day in the beginning. So this means that a young lady with a water can is going around the city and waters something that has not appeared yet. After approximately 8 days, the words start to grow and the grass is no longer only grass and the word is no longer only word. So there has been different stories. As I said, I had a couple of interviews which are published actually with Barbara Papadopoulou. Some of the words that she used in Greek is very simple, like now, tora, ormi, or ormi. So we can see that in the following slides. Would it be possible? So this is a Flemish actually. Okay, so we're okay with that. We can stay here. So something happened with the presentation, something went wrong, it's okay. We will manage, I can show you some stuff there afterwards. And she worked with communities. So for example, one of the stories is she had outside of the European Parliament, so she planted the word oser. So in France, be brave, so take the risk as a guerrilla project. And she told me, for example, in Germany, she had the word ich erinnere mich, which means I remember. And she had a woman standing in front of the word, crying and saying a story of how can I forget? I will always remember. So these words speak to a political context, a personal context sometimes, also a social, and around the words, she builds a community of care and bonding sometimes. And it's very important that throughout this impromptu encounter of the words and of the new words and life that they give along with them, there is a small community of people built around it. So the next project is, can we just see the next one? So it's Ryders folk. So it goes like a historical, as I said, approach. Ryders folk is a project that I followed while I lived in London. And then I persuaded the British Council to bring the project, which is a project inspired by blast theory. And I worked along with them at the Union of the Greek Cyclists in Athens at the Theon. So we launched the project there. It was launched also in different countries along the globe, so Australia, Hungary, just to start. The audience can take part either on its own bike or borrow one supplied by Blast Theory. Following a short introduction and safety briefing, one heads out into the streets with a handheld computer mounted on the handlebars. Participants are given a question and invited to look for an appropriate hiding place where they will record your answer. The screen of the device acts primarily as a positioning system, showing where you are and whether there are any hiding places nearby. Once you find a hiding place, a spot previously undiscovered by any other player, the device flashes an alert and the question. The question is one of a selection authored by Blast Theory that asks you alone in an out-of-the-way spot to reflect on your life. You then record your answer onto the device. Each hiding place combines two properties, the physical location and the electronic location as reported by the device, and for this reason, position itself is slippery and changeable. This is especially true as so this is actually a project that has been initiated by the University of Nottingham. It's a participatory performance and gaming project at the same time, and they use new media. So in Greece, we had over 40 participants of different age groups and education. And I did interviews with people who participated. So we have another slide. I think I will share it then from my computer, the presentation, just in the end, if I have 3 minutes, just to show you a couple of other slides. And so this is how it worked. And this is a picture that I took in London. Okay, let's carry on. Let's carry on from the same presentation, and I will show in the end, if it's possible, please. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's move to the next one. Okay, this is the how it worked. This is their branding. Okay, can we move to the next one? It was quite successful in Greece, actually. So, okay, can we move to the next one, please? Okay, this is a project that I did together with Nomadiki Architectoniki and Eleni Georgilaki. That was in the frame of a symposium that I organized back in 2014, which was called Athens in Transition, which was at Camp, C-A-M-P, a place that doesn't exist anymore. So I used we were talking about what is happening back then, which was a completely different time and era for Greece. So although we had this plaza, this avenue, so Omonia and Syntagma, they were not inhabited. So Platia Kotzia is a historical square, which was not inhabited back then by people. They were just passers-by, strangers, foreigners, and we know what we have under the umbrella of foreigners back then. So Eleni did a performance in the public space, which was inspired by The Human Condition by Hannah Arendt. So she had this cart, as you all can see in the picture, and it was full of fruits that she was giving away to people while she was reciting Mayakovsky's poem. So that was around the Platia, the square of Platia Kotzia. And then we had a couple of, that was the only intervention in the morning. Then we had the symposium where Alifinos, for example, told about the encryptions. He was doing a big project around Athens. Christopoulos, who is a very famous writer, talked about his book, The Torch, that he has been following. People that back then they were looking food in their garbage, etc. So yes, let's move, please, if it's possible. So this is a project I organized myself again. So as it was the Athens in Transition, this is called Urban Digital Narratives, as you can see. So this is a QR code. Urban Digital Narratives was realized through a collaborative workshop that I led in the Gazi Keramikos area, which is it was attempted to be gentrified, and it's still an ongoing process. District of Athens, which constructed a locative route via collaboration with another mixed group of students, architects, artists, photographers, video makers, and computer scientists. So the chosen area of Gazi and Keramikos was a very mixed inner city area for the ones who don't know the area, where gentrification had created a pleasure zone of clubs and cafes surrounded by established artisan communities and migrant communities to the north. These elements faced multiple problems, above all a sense of powerlessness in the face of the ill-formed status for recent migrants and of displacements by rising property prices and rents in the south of the area, together with an influx of noisy and youthful revelers with values into conservative working neighborhoods, etc. So what I did with the participants of the workshop, so we had two parameters. The one has been space and the other was time. So we were meeting impromptu people. We had these random encounters and we met all kinds of people. Believe me, I can tell you very many stories. So in this area, there are yappies, investors, gypsies, all kinds of people interacting, and in a way, again, I have to know, living together. So we're meeting these people. We were actually posing questions like how they about the area and about time. So how long have you been here? How long have you been living or interacting or working here? Or why are you here? So things about the place, space, and time. So, and then some of them, they were very keen on sharing their stories. So there were, for example, this gypsies family, many gypsies family did that. We took interviews, young people, young investor. There are also studios and prostitutes working in the area. So we had also interviews from women working there. And we had a formula they had to fill in if they wanted. So by giving their consent, we had either a video or a sound recording with their testimony, with their story. And then we launched 2 days of a tour of an open museum. We put the QR codes and invited people to tour around these streets and to take the interviews. And by scanning upon the QR code, they could also check with the stories, so see the stories in a way. And so it has been like as if they had been there. We also launched back then a trail with the 2 streets, a map, and people could also share it online. Okay, let's move, please. Thank you.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. I will do my best. Give me 3, please. Can we please move? Okay, can we please move? Thank you. Okay, very briefly, this is a project I did with Vasilis Bill Psaras. So 2 years back in Athens, was called Where All Cities Electricities. We chose the area of Acropolis, so nearby Koukaki, and people were having this little lamp that you can see. And when they were pressing a small button that we created, so they could share a story upon this walking tour in the specific area. It was called Where All Cities Electricities. Let's move to the next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, and maybe I would like to conclude, as we're running out of time, with Victoria Square project. I know that the Victoria Square project participates also to the Nordic Urban Lab. So I know Rick Lowe and Maria Papadimitriou. They have founded this initiative of Victoria Square project along with Documenta 14. At a very critical time. So Klik Ngvere has been a figure that worked there, and she also used knitting practices. She's not there anymore, so maybe we conclude with the last slide of here. So this is a project that has been developing around the notion of Rick Lowe with social sculpture. Maybe we wrap it up here. Okay, thank you. We don't need to show any other slides. So Victoria Square project is, as I said, a project that centers around this notion of social sculpture. Kypseli is a very important, in a way, area. So that has been redeveloped. It has been a very important area in the past, abandoned, and then we got back there with great attention. And right now the project has been reshaped, working with NGOs and other organizations. Okay, so to my understanding, we run out of time. We're not running. So
okay, that's true, but hopefully you can just stay around, and we can, after the other presentations, maybe get back to some of the points which are, so thanks for this really good overview, both theoretical overview of how we got here on a European from a European point of view, but also touching on a number of projects which kind of represent also this gradual individualization, and that things are becoming more and more specific and more proactive with participatory, led by participants. So I think that was really good to see, actually. And Ryders Spoke is that's the only project I knew. We've also presented it as a wonderful example. So thanks very much for that.